Hey guys, my name is Thor and this is my JG P90. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to take apart and basically clean and do other things with your gearbox. This is basically a gun I got for around $140 about a year, maybe two ago, and it has held up the whole time. So I'm going to be showing you guys what I have done to it, what I plan on doing to it, and what you need to do to it in order to get this gun from a stock gun all the way up to almost a professional level gun. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need to do in order to disassemble your P90, it could be any brand in all reality, basically any brand, but Tokyo Marui is basically the same, whether it's FN Herschel or Echo 1 or JG as mine is, so they're all basically the same. So what you're going to do is you're going to take out your mag, set that to the side. After you take out your mag, you're going to remove the forward receiver, or the front receiver, whatever you'd like to call it. There is a little button right here that you need to push. If you press that in, it's going to come out. All you got to do is remove straight out. Careful, because your hop-up unit is right there. So go and set that to the side. Alright, so right now, what you're left with is you're left with your shell and your gearbox. And, if your battery's in there, you're left with that too. So basically, at this point, you're going to flip it upside down, or I'm going to, just to show you guys this better. And you're going to press this button right here, and you're going to pull down, and then you're just going to remove this butt plate. So it's a pretty standard, thing. I'm actually looking into getting an extended one. It's about this long instead of just this long, so I actually have some pretty long arms. So from here, this is going to reveal your battery housing and your back plate to actually hold in your gearbox. So go and remove your stock 9.6 if you've got this gun stock. And then after that, you're going to actually see, move that out of the way, there are two screws in here, right here and right here. What you're going to do is you're going to remove these screws with a screwdriver. So it's a Phillips head screw. So all I do is I take this screwdriver right here. Now this screwdriver right here is probably the best screwdriver you can have for actually airsoft maintenance. What it is it's a screwdriver, and it comes in a case like this, and it's got a bunch of different, I would say, bits. Basically it's like a drill. But what you do is, and it comes with this extension part, and so you can choose between any of these bits, if you will. So the reason why I like this is because the extension part is actually in the shape of a hex. That means it has 5 sides. And so once you're taking apart the gearbox, you slide this into the back of your spring guide to make sure it doesn't go flying everywhere once you release the pressure on it. So this is just a good screwdriver to use. So I highly recommend this Skill screwdriver. You can pick it up at Lowe's, Home Depot. They might sell them at Walmart. Alright, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to untighten these two screws back under here. So give me a minute. Now you do not have to totally take them out. That's not something that you need to do. Now they may be in there a little bit tight. Excuse me, I'm going to have to lay this down in order to do this. Alright, so once you remove these two screws, what you're going to do is you're going to grab from the top right here, and you're just going to pull out, and your back plate is actually going to basically come off. It is put in here so that if something does go wrong with these screws, it's not just going to come flying out the back. So all you got to do is, there's a little gap, you just have to remove it like this. Now be careful not to pull on your wiring, because that's, it's ran through here. So if you look on your back plate, if you have a JG, what they've done, which is actually really good, is they've put this foam right here. This foam, if you can see, that is where the back of the gearbox rests, and that's where the hole is for the spring guide. So whenever it's pulling back and keeps on hitting, you can see that's the indentation it's made, and it's taking pressure or wear basically off of this plastic. So that is one of the things that they have done. They've done really good. So you know, that's a good job. If you don't have that, you need to invest. That's probably one of the best things that you could do, just to, you know, ensure that you're not going to have this break on you. Alright, so after you've done that, all you've got to do is basically take your exposed gearbox and tilt your P90 back and pull out your gearbox. Now just set the shell to the side. You can flip this over. I'm going to get a cloth to set this on. I usually keep my gearbox pretty lubed up, so as you can see, that's from the first time I cleaned it. If this is the first time you're taking this apart, I know you're pretty nervous, as I was too, but it needs to be cleaned. So I'm not going to clean mine today. I've actually recently lubed all of it up. I got some new grease, so I'm just going to show you the processes today. Alright, so basically this is your version 6 gearbox. Right here you've got your basically trigger housing. This is where all the electrical stuff happens. If you can see right here, these little brass plates right here, there's a spring right here. This is where when you pull the trigger, it pushes it back, and once this brass plate touches these brass, that is when a connection is established. A spark will happen, all of this starts to move, and that sends electricity through these wires from the trigger contacts into these wires back into your motor. Your motor's what spins, and it connects to the gears, and then the gears actually pull back the piston, and the spring works all together like that. Alright, so the first step to taking apart your version 6 gearbox is actually unscrewing these 3 screws right here on your electrical box. So what you're going to do is just take your screwdriver and unscrew these 3. After you're done unscrewing these 3, all you need to do is just lift up a little bit and remove this part. Alright, now don't pull too far because your wires are still connected to your motor. Alright, the motor is connected by this screw right here and this screw right here. All you've got to do is unscrew this one, and then your whole motor will be able to detach. Like so. Just remove these screws, put them to the side, and then just pull directly out, and your motor will attach. Now basically, your electric box and your motor are one unit unless you take off these quick connector pins. All you have to do right here is, I'll show you, you just pull with your fingernail and it'll come off like that. Then there's a black one back here, you pull and it'll come off, and you're actually left with your motor. Now I will show you guys how to disassemble your motor. This screw right here that goes in the top of your electrical box, or your trigger assembly, or your trigger box, whatever you'd like to call it, this screw right here, do not mix these up with these right here. These screws are actually longer, and if you put these screws through right here, then your cutoff lever on the other side will actually be blocked off, and you won't be able to actually switch fire rates. So set off your electrical box to the side. I'm going to show you guys how to basically, you know, take apart the motor. Basically, what there is there's a screw right here. All you've got to do is unscrew that. Usually it'll be pretty tight. There may be a little bit of Loctite on it, just depending on what brand you get. There's a washer on it, so be sure you don't lose that. I'll just go and put that right back on. After that, you slide one part forward. If you can see right here, this is like an L shape, and then here's your there's the dot basically that's held in. You slide, if you're looking at it from this way, you slide this part back, the right side back and the left side forward, and then you can separate it like this. Alright, so basically after you do that, there's your spring. It's on the front. On the back here though, there is a small disc that helps you adjust the motor height actually. The motor height can be adjusted by using actually an Allen wrench on the back of here, and that will actually adjust. What it does is this what this spring is on here for. Depending on how tight your Allen key is, or your Allen screw, it will push the motor in, bending the spring back. The further the motor in is, basically the higher you would say, the more it would grip the gears. But you don't want it to grip the gears too much. So when it's inside of here, like so, it's going to grip the gears. But you just need to kind of adjust your motor height based on sound. That's how you do it right there. You try and get the most deepest and most dark sound you can get out of it. So once you adjust it correctly, you'll be able to know exactly what you know that's the right thing. All right, so basically to put the motor back together, put your disc back here in the back. Basically there's a screw right here, and then there's the motor. All you got to do is just move the motor forward a little bit and slide it in between the motor back and the screw, and then after that you lift up on the front end of your motor, pull back the spring and put it so it's still on the inside right here. Then after that you take your motor casing. There may be a lot of stray grease right here, and make sure there's like no hairs, like stray hairs in there or anything. In a minute I'll clean this out, because that is one of the things that I haven't done in a while, and I'll show you guys how you will go about that. You can just use the same method for inside the gearbox. So all you got to do is slide these two pieces together, make sure that they're lined up with the screws right here, and then you're going to put back on your screw. It actually goes in through the left side of the gearbox if the long end is facing away from you. So just start that in there. I usually do it with my finger, then use my skill screwdriver. Make sure that's really tight. Your motor is one of the things that's going to jerk whenever you actually start it up. I can actually show you that here in a minute. But first I'm going to clean right here. Basically, if you look closely, you can see this. There's this nasty grease in there. That's from the actual, the product developer, basically, the manufacturer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rag, and all you do is just put it down in there with your finger, and then just wipe. You're gonna get some nasty stuff out like that. So just wipe with it. Make sure you get in all the crevices. Don't put too much pressure on your pinion gear. That's what that is right there, your pinion, because it could warp it in some way if you have a cheap, like, stock motor. So if you have any grease on top, go ahead and wipe that off. Alright, so then what you're going to do is, I have some grease over here. This is actually, it's called slide grease. It's Herco, but what it is it's actually grease for instruments, such as trumpet or tuba, and basically the slides, they're meant to be moved quickly and in time with music. So basically what that does is it's going to lube this up, but it's a fast operating grease, because it's meant for instruments and stuff. So all you're going to do is, when you apply this grease, just get a little bit on your finger, not too much. That is about the max you want. You're going to take it, you're going to apply it down here, make sure you spread it out pretty good. Try and get it up under the pinion gear if your fingers are small enough to do that. Get all up along the sides, and you can put a little bit on your pinion gear. You can rotate that just a tad to do that. So not a lot on the pinion gear. You need a little between each actual, I guess you'd call it a divot in the gear. You need a little bit between each one, but not very much. So just wipe my hand off here. Alright, then after that you're going to get some silicone grease. It looks like this right here. Basically what this is, it's just silicone oil, and it lubricates really good. So you can get this at your local, like, Walmart or like Academy Sports, or basically any sports place. I know this Crossman stuff, it shoots really like a ton if you just like press all the way down. So just lightly press down. Put some on the bottom here. Alright, now you're going to want to drain it. Just kind of lightly tap on your rag, and it should drain most of the excess. If you need to, you can even use the end of your thing to get some out. Alright, and then after that, you can basically just reattach the cables. So, just as standard, you just black on black, red on red. Put the black over here. Now make sure it fits under this little, I guess you'd call it a wing over here. And the red, put it right here. And then wrap that around the wing. Now here I'm going to show you how much the motor actually jerks whenever it starts. So this is why you need to keep it secure. So if you see this motor right here, I'm going to touch the trigger contacts. I'm going to touch the trigger contacts together, and it's going to jerk like that. You see how much that jerks? That's just from a 9.6. Now I lipoed my gun, and it will jerk even more because the fire rate's more. So as you can see, that jerk right there is quite a lot. So you just need to make sure that everything around your motor is very secure, or you might get some wear just from vibrations and stuff. Make sure that the top of your motor casing doesn't have a lot of grease on it, since you're dealing with electricity and stuff back here. If you get grease on it, it could affect, you know, the strength or the time you have with your wires. So I'm just going to set that to the side. Alright, now if you'll see over here, all of these dots up here, that's from me actually spraying on the gear. But this little line right here of grease, that is where the basically all of it came out of my bushings and actually got around my trigger box. There you go. If you can see that grease, I'm just going to take a rag and wipe it off. Alright, then after that, basically this is where you start to open up your gearbox. There is one screw right here that you need to remove. This is going to be a very tight screw if you've already opened it up. If you haven't opened it up, then it might not be as tight as needed because of the manufacturer. So just take this screw out. It's a very small screw, so just set it to the side. Alright, then after this, all you've got holding your gearbox together is this little, I guess you'd call it a slider up here. This is putting pressure on the top of the gearbox, but most of the energy out of this gearbox is up here in the top, where the spring is and the spring guide right here. So all you're going to do is, if you have a skilled screwdriver, this works perfectly. So you just take off this end, take the hex end of your screwdriver, the extension, slide it into the back right here of your gearbox, and then all you got to do is hold this down, put a little bit of pressure down here where your bushings are and your gears, slide this bar off, set it off to the side. Then you're going to want to put some pressure, like push down into whatever surface you're working on, and pull up on this side of your gearbox. Now it may actually start to fly up and apart and stuff due to pressure like that. So you don't want to lift all the way up. Like, hold on, I'm hooked on this side. You're not going to want to go just rip it up. What you're going to want to do is slowly lift, so then that way if it is going to move and stuff, you've still got all your stuff down inside of the controlled explosion. You probably don't want to hear explosion and gearbox in the same statement when it comes to airsoft or anything in that matter. But yeah, if you can see my spring, it's actually bent towards this way. That's just from crazy speed. In all reality, it's not going to hurt it a lot, but it's not the best for your spring. So I'm not going to invest in a new spring quite yet because I don't really have the need. If you have any extra grease on the back of your piston, that's what this is right here. Go and wipe that off. You still need quite a bit of grease. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to classify all this for you right now. Basically, these are bushings right here. They're just basically, they set on the inside of your gearbox, and that's what your gears spin inside of, if you can see right here. Alright, so once you take out your gears, some of your bushings may actually come off with the gears, so just be careful with that. So put your bushings down inside here. If you're working on a rag or something, just watch out, because if your bushings could get caught with some of the cloth that's sticking up. So basically right here, all you've got is the shell of your gearbox. You've got all the parts out, just spread them out, and then you should be good. While I'm putting them inside, I'll actually show you what they are. Right here, this little lever right here, this is your cutoff lever. What this is basically while your sector gear is spinning, it's uneven right here. It's basically like an arrow pointing this way. This lever, whenever it's shooting, is down. Basically, it's almost like a safety. But whenever you're shooting, it will actually cut it off quickly, depending on what fire mode you're in. So that's what the cutoff lever does. And so there's a small spring in between here. I've never had a problem with it coming out, just because it's secured pretty good inside there. Alright, so basically I'm going to assemble the gearbox from scratch, basically like it is here, you know, with the exception of your bushing and stuff right here. If you're going to clean this, all you've got to do, get some silicone oil, spray right here, spray up here, spray in this little crack right here for your spring for your tappet plate. Spray along the edges right here, spray around your bushings, spray along this edge right here, and then if you want to, you can also spray up along in here. That's probably the best. These are the places that are going to be moving, so I can do a little bit right here, like around here, and then once I do that, I'll do a little bit right now. Actually, it looks a little bit dry. As you can see, I'm not fully pushing this down. I'm getting a little drizzle. Alright, so you don't want to overuse your silicone grease or oil or whatever you'd like to call it, because it will drip out of your gearbox. So that's one of the things that I do, is basically I'll get a rag and just kind of dab it, so I'm not getting a lot of excess. And so you can see all that black right there, that actually came out. Alright, so what your first part of assembling your gearbox is basically taking the front part of your gearbox, also known as your piston and stuff. You take that and you actually assemble it. I'm sorry, I hate grease on my fingers. Alright, so basically what you need to do is, this is your piston head. Excuse me, your cylinder head. This is basically, the airsoft gun, let me break it down for you. The airsoft gun, there's this piston, and this piston head does not let air escape through. The piston head is pulled back inside the cylinder. It's pulled back through right here, sucking air through the front of there's small little dots in the piston head. Air can come through, it'll come out a little bit, but it's basically an airtight thing in a perfect world. Then what it does is it comes back and it pulls back. This is a breathing port. Once it gets back here, this allows the whole cylinder to be filled from basically where the head is. So it's gonna slide back, and right once it gets to here, air is allowed into the cylinder. Then the gears are gonna release, and it's gonna slide forward from spring pressure, and it's going to come up here, and it is going to push against your cylinder head. And your cylinder head it's got an O-ring right there. That's what your first black line is right here. It's got an O-ring on there that does not let very much air escape. So basically, that forces all of your gas and stuff into your air nozzle. Your air nozzle, depending on what what quality you have, it's going to come out of this tube right here, out of your cylinder head. It's going to come into your air nozzle. Your air nozzle moves with your tappet plate. It moves back and forth like this. So you put your tappet plate on here. Your sector gear actually has this little pin right there, and that rests on the tappet plate. I'll show you here in a minute, and that moves it back and forth. Actually, it'll do this, and basically when it moves it back and forth, every time it goes forward, it pushes out air and moves a BB through the tube. Whenever it pulls back, another BB is loaded into the chamber, and then it does this rapidly. So that is one of the things that basically that's just the airsoft gun broken down. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my piston out. Piston does not need to be inserted right now. What you're going to do is you're going to take your tappet plate spring, which is this right here. You're going to set it up on the edge of the where it's supposed to go right here. Just set it up on the edge right there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your tappet plate and your cylinder and stuff, and you're going to actually insert it so that everything is connected, as it should be. So basically you take it. If you can see right here, you probably can't. your tappet plate has a little L-shaped piece right here, and what that does is it grabs the spring and it actually fits perfectly inside of this little indentation right here. So what you need to do is take this, let the L piece hit the front of it, and then push down into the divot with your tappet plate. And there is actually, I can show you on the other side of the gearbox, that little knob thing right there. Sorry, my hands are greasy. That is what this hole is for. That does not let your cylinder head move. So that means basically your airtight seal on your cylinder, on your cylinder head, excuse me, that does not move. As you can see, I had a little bit of rag caught in there. So be sure that you remove your rag, you know, if it is caught. If you can see my tappet plate is lifting up, that is because my spring, basically what it's doing is bowing out. Now that all that's done, just make sure everything's right. Usually I like to feel the inside of my cylinder, just run my finger inside of it, just, you know, make sure it's still lubed up. And then after that, this is when you actually start putting the gears back on. If you want to, you can go and insert your piston right now instead of trying to work around the sector gear with it. Usually that's easier. If you're experiencing this popping out like it is right now, all you've got to do is take the end of your screwdriver, press it down inside, then push the whole thing down, and it's good. So first gear you insert is your spur gear. You basically just put that there. Usually, sometimes the bushings will get caught on the back, so just watch out for that. You don't want to double bush your gearbox. That would suck. You know, I don't like the bush, but trust me. Alright, so now I'm coming back from that. After that, you're usually going to want to install your sector gear. You're going to lift up the tappet plate and put that right there. I like to go and put my bushing on top of that. The tappet plate actually will lift your bush. The tappet plate will lift your bush up off the bushing, excuse me. I'm sorry. Will lift your bushing up off the sector gear. That's just one of those things you gotta just press that thing back down in there. So I'm sorry. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep the bushing off for that right now. All right, next you have your anti-reversal latch. So this is basically a spring. Just put this right on there, and it's going to fit onto your anti-reversal latch. You should be able to see how it fits on there better. You put the spring on the bottom right here, and then it actually wraps around right here. So that just goes right in this spot right here. Now you want one of the big problems I had right once I got this, once I first opened up this gearbox, is whenever I put the gun back together from cleaning it or just opening up the gearbox in general, it would make this whirring sound. The problem is, you need to start the gears right before the cutoff lever is engaging your sector gear. So if you see this, it actually moves right there. That's where the cutoff lever is pushing it, because it's doing what it's supposed to. So basically, you push it back until there's a little bit of resistance, and then let it go until it's comfortable, rest position. After that, let me go and fix this. After that, you go ahead and add your bevel gear. Now, there are indentions on here for the anti-reversal latch, so it doesn't go backwards. So usually I like to start putting it in on one of those indentions. So while I am reassembling the gearbox, that positioning that I've put the spur and sector gear into, it isn't moved. Alright, so now you're just left with putting on your bushings. So you put those on. Now, one of the hardest things about putting this gun back together is making sure your bushings stay on from the tappet plate, and it's not going to pop off from the pressure of the spring. Alright, so once you've done this, all you've got to do is, while pushing in, put your thumb on the tappet plate and angle your fist or your arm down while you're pushing, so then that way the spring doesn't bow out. Then you can remove your hand from the tappet plate, and you can take the other half of your gearbox. I've seen some people, they have to hold right here, and then they've got to grab and then they have to insert their finger through this part of the gearbox and hold their cylinder in. I don't know why. Technically, I have a higher speed setup, but I don't quite know. That wouldn't affect it at all, basically. If you have problems with the front not closing, that means that your either your tappet plate or your cylinder head is too far forward. All you gotta do is insert your finger in here, kind of push back on something that's resisting right here, and you're good. All right, from this point, you can just hold it down with your fingers, but please be careful. You've still got a lot of resistance, so you can slide on that little metal clamp that goes on top. At this part, you can see, let me remove my X key. You can see my gears aren't lined up. My bushings aren't lined up. My bushings aren't lined up with the holes. So all you've got to do, if this one's lined up, actually, my anti-reversal latch fell out. That's good. All right, that's actually a big problem people encounter. Anti-reversal latches, they can actually fall while you're putting the gearbox together. All you got to do, take that bevel out real quick, set that anti-reversal in there, make sure everything is still, the teeth are still down. Set that bevel back up on there. See, it falls. Make sure it's not on the other side of the bevel. That'll catch it before it can cycle. And crap gets real. So it's easier to put the anti-reversal latch in before your bevel gear, but you can sometimes move the bevel so that the anti-reversal latch you really don't have to worry about putting it in. Alright, after this, once again, just set your bushing on top of there. The tappet plate can sometimes lift it up, but that's good. So slowly put this on here so that your anti-reversal latch doesn't fall off. I'll add that. There's a hair right here. Make sure you don't get any spare hairs in your gearbox, guys. Those can be a pain in the butt. So is this bushing. If you're having problems with your tappet plate lifting your bushing, just kind of push down on the front of it so it doesn't lift. Alright, then after that, all you gotta do is set it down on top. Alright, now this is what I'm talking about. Front not closing. Just push back, right up here, and it closes. Just like that. So basically, if you did everything right like you were supposed to, once you hook it up, it should sound somewhat like this. So basically, after that, if you're wanting a lipo, go and get your trusty lipo out. It's good for a lipo.